Hi, Jen Delaney here, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the concept of being open hearted and broken hearted because that creates a sense of vitality, a sense of living from the inside out, authentic, from being available. And it's pretty hard to be human and be vulnerable. And so we put up a lot of defenses, and inevitably, as we go on in life and we don't do our work and kind of clear our trauma and clear our resentments, then we start to become bitter, and there's a shutdown that happens. And in the shutdown, you avoid being brokenhearted, but you also avoid being open-hearted. And so the ideal is to live from a place of being willing to be vulnerable because vulnerability connects two people. But I have to say that most people or couples that I work with are coming from a place of hypervigilance and from their trauma and from their past experiences. And so it turns into kill or be killed. It's not quite War of the Roses, but if you think about it, the deep brain doesn't think in gray area, it thinks in terms of black and white. So if someone feels like they're attacking you or they're putting you down, then the blood flow starts to go to the primal brain, and you want to take that person down, with your words. And so unless somebody breaks out of that, it becomes a nightmare. So again, that's the shutdown. That's the close-heartedness, and so in that place you might not feel brokenhearted, although a lot of times it leads to being brokenhearted, and people are very confused about how to do relationship. The only way to do relationship is to do your own work and to be clearing your own trauma so that you're willing to be vulnerable, so that you're willing to hold not only that safe space for yourself but also for somebody else. And in that vulnerability and connection, the heart begins to trust, to open and open. And inevitably, we begin to feel with others. And that's the brokenhearted. We begin to have an empathy that transcends anything we've ever known before. Sometimes that brokenhearted is when somebody in our lives dies. And that grief is brutal. But in that grief, if we can stay out of guilt and shame around it and just be in the pure grief, the heart begins to expand a little bit. It begins to feel more human and more connection to the human experience. And so there's not one way to go at becoming open-hearted, broken-hearted. It's just that when you begin to live with a sense of both of them, there is more vitality. There's more of a sense of being present, to available in the moment. And that's why I advocate for doing the trauma work, because we've all been traumatized. I mean, we start out with birth that's traumatic. Unless maybe you were born in a pool under a tree with your whole family around you. In that case, maybe you're not traumatized from birth, but otherwise, the lights and the people and the discomfort of blankets and, as opposed to just being on the mother, birth can be traumatic. So there's these other little things that add up to become compounded trauma that make us feel a little bit like this is an unsafe place to be, and people aren't always very trustworthy. And so part of us shuts down so early in life. But as you do your work to begin to know who to trust and how to trust, and you take some risks, and it's brave work, the trauma work is, and then your heart begins to open a little more. And inevitably that means you're going to start feeling how bittersweet life is. It doesn't last forever. And so let's get connected. Let's do the love work that we can so that we can be feeling connected, be feeling present to every day of our lives, to every moment of our lives. So anyway, that's a little bit about open-hearted, broken-hearted, and I wish you an experience of that on this journey. Take care.